Hare Krishna. Question: what does the Gita 2.12 actually prove? It simply says that there is duality, there are multiple individuals who exist eternally. But the Acharyas quote Nityo Nityanam to talk about how there is one supreme soul who exists as distinct from the many subordinate souls. But this distinction between the supreme soul and the subordinate souls is not actually pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita's in this verse. So, what is a valid inference from this verse? Answer: yes, the verse primarily stresses the eternality of individuality. That I, you, and all these kings, we existed in the past, we exist now is understood, and we will exist in the future also. So this is essentially a declaration of the eternality of individuality, and Balde and Ramanujacharya is the one of the most prominent acharyas who uses this verse to stress to counter impersonalism. Now, what are the essential points of the monistic doctrine? That the soul and the supreme are one, and that they will merge into each other at liberation. So, and especially the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be a book which is meant to guide one towards enlightenment, and it's also understood that Krishna is enlightened. That's why he's speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So, if Krishna is enlightened, then Krishna is speaking the Bhagavad Gita for Arjuna's enlightenment. Then, if they are going to be enlightened, then they should become one. But the fact that they are not become one, Krishna is saying that we will not become one, we will stay individuals even in the future. I will exist, you will exist, all these kings will exist. So, this indicates that the eternality of individuality continues even after enlightenment. So, yes, this verse doesn't talk about the the concept of there being a Ishvara who is supreme and there being a Jiva who is subordinate. But this duality of the subordinate Jiva and the supreme Ishvara, this is widely talked about in the scriptures. For example, in the Upanishads, also there are prayers to the Supreme, and in the Vedas there are prayers to the Supreme. In the Puranas, Itihasas, there are abundant prayers to the Supreme. So, in fact, when Shankaracharya and his followers, the Advaitins, they try to deal with this problem by saying that all these talks about worship are Laghuvakya, and the talks about Aikya are the Mahavakya, and this is how they try to subordinate the whole thing, subordinate personalism to impersonalism. But there is no scriptural basis for the idea that certain statements are Mahavakya and others are Laghuvakya. And Ramanujacharya says this would make most of scripture redundant. In fact, not just redundant, misleading. And anyway, the idea that if there is some Mahavakya and some Laghuvakya, then at least Krishna is enlightened. And what Krishna speaks should be the enlightened level of reality. So when Krishna is saying, I eternally exist, and he is saying, you eternally exist, this conception of I and you, this duality should not be present in one who is enlightened. So Prabhupada argues, following Ramanujacharya and Baldev Vidyabhushan, that either we say if Krishna is enlightened, then individuality exists in the enlightened state also. If Krishna is not enlightened, then there is no point in hearing the Bhagavad Gita, because it will not lead to, it is not spoken by enlightened being, it will not lead to enlightenment. So they have to make choices, and usually when Shankaracharya has talked about the glory of the Bhagavad Gita, he has talked about this, how it is spoken by Krishna, Mukhapadma Vinishruta. So now the emphasis is that the difference between the Jiva and the soul is repeatedly talked about in scripture. And sorry, not the Jiva and Bhagavan, Jiva and Ishvara is repeatedly talked about in scripture. And impersonalism says that these two will become one on liberation. So when Krishna says that there will be individuality in the eternal realm, that itself means that the polarity between the supreme Ishvara and the subordinate Jiva will continue. So that difference between the Jiva and Ishvara is not talked about in this verse. That's true. Krishna talks about it later in the Bhagavad Gita at several places, when, for example, he says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the source of everything. Or he says that even the Devatas do not know me because I am their source. Name vidusura ganaha. And of course he says that there are two kshetras in the body, there are two kshetrajnas in the body, and one kshetrajam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata, one who knows all the kshetra, or that is it is 13.3 and 13.23 also Krishna says uttama purusha tvanya paramatmeti udarata yolok tremavishya vibhartya ishvara. That's actually 15.17. This is 13.23 is upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyokto dehesmin purusha para. So purusha para, just before that he has talked about the purusha who is inside and who is caught in the body. Bhungte purusha prakriti and he says purusha paraha, and this is called as the paramatma. So the point is that this specific subordinate position of the Jiva and the supreme position of the Ishvara, it is a consistent teaching of scripture which impersonalists try to overturn by saying that the Jiva and the Ishvara will eventually become one. So if this verse states that Jiva and Ishvara will not become one, that itself means that the standard statement of scripture that the Jiva is to worship the Ishvara, that is continued by the statement. That is at least not countered, or the impersonalist counter to that is countered over here. And in that sense, so if there is a standard path and the impersonalists are saying this is not the right path, then whatever they are saying is the right path. If Krishna says this is not right, and there is no oneness happening, then that means the standard is right. So in that sense, the verse gives a particular statement which is consistent with the majority teaching of scripture, and that concordance means different statements coming together in harmony. That concordance of scriptural conclusion is brought about by the acharyas in the purport. So the verse says that individuality is eternal, and there are many places where worship is talked about. Worship implies that there is a worshipper and there is a worshipable. So combining the internality of individuality and the duality of worshipper and worship, the acharyas explain that they combine this and substantiate it by quoting nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam, and in this way they infer from the eternality of individuality to the eternality of Ishvara, eternality of the Jiva. Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jeev Bhutaha Sanatanha. So Krishna, we are eternal parts of Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.